So if we were to distill that down, the reality is what you're telling me your company's mission is to be the best. Right, right. And now, are you ready? I mean, does a good coach tell you what you need to hear or what you want to hear? Right. So are you open and receptive for some feedback here? Right. So you've got right now. You've currently got, what is it, 24 employees? Yes, and they all strive for this mission to be the best. Right. And so Bain, it's interesting that Bain Capital did some research. They interviewed almost 400 companies, and out of those 400 companies, 80% of those companies would self-disclose that they felt they had a superior product, and that was what set them apart from the rest of their industry, was that they were the best at what they did. And the very interesting part about this, the thing that I find so interesting, is that when they went in and interviewed their clients, only 8% of their clients actually suggested that they agreed with them. So here you have 8 out of 10 businesses thinking that they have a superior product, and less than 1 out of 10 are suggesting that that's true. There's a huge disconnect. When we talk about being the best, there's a lot of problems with suggesting that you are the best. And what I would invite you to start to entertain is, instead of trying to be the best as a goal, what we do is we try to find a way to set you apart and make you unique. Right. I'm not talking being the best is the problem with being the best. When you're focused on being the best, follow me here. When you're focused on being the best, it's all about being number one. Right. It's all about being at the top of the heap. It's all about being the one at the top, in the one that everybody else is following. Right. And so the challenge with that is you're always comparing yourself to somebody else to make sure that you're validating what it is that you're doing. The only way to get real validation is to say, did we beat that guy? Right? And anytime you run your business like that, it becomes very challenging, because now it's a battle. Right? Whereas being unique is about being relevant. Right? It isn't about being better than this guy, better than this guy. It's about, are we relevant to the world that we are working in? Is it something that sets us apart from and allows us to impact our environment? It's not about comparison in regards to, are we doing it better than them, because they're not even in they're in the decision-making process. Like when we build out a map, when we do strategic positioning, we want to make sure that we understand, your rivals and what their strategic trade-off is. But it isn't the goal to end all goals to be better than this guy. Right? It's about being unique and offering a service that's relevant. Right? And so if you're focused on being the best, the focus is on market share, right? Whereas to be unique, the focus is on impact. And there's a challenge when you as a business owner label your value or rate your value based upon where you're at on the market share, because it's always, first off, fluctuating. Second off, do you know now what piece of the market share you actually own? In other words, can you tell me you currently own 23% of your market share, your nearest rival owns? No, right? There's no way for you to know that, right? So now you've got a mission that says we strive to be the best and offer the best ever, like better than anything else out there. And yet there's no way for you, from a business owner, to really assess where you're at in that goal, in that mission. And one of the things that Tony preaches at Business Mastery is what gets reported gets measured, what gets measured gets managed, and what gets managed grows exponentially. Right? If you don't have some form of understanding where you're at in the terrain that you're operating in, there's no way for you to create what we call active data, so you can create functional strategy. When your focus is always on market share and you don't know where you're at with market share, how do you ever expect to know where you're truly at? Right? Whereas if the focus is on impact, we can rate that. We can go in and see, did we impact these people, this group, this target market? Did we create some forward momentum? Did we provide the impact and shift the surroundings at the way that we wanted to? Right? And again, now instead of the focus being on money, on are we competing at the highest level compared to everybody else, it isn't about all that. Although that's still there, the real focus is on, are we making the impact? Are we relevant? The focus is on impact. right? And if you're looking to be the best, you're looking to serve the best customer with the best product, right? And again, that starts to limit, because again, it's always looking at, are we focused on the best? Are we often? And again, it's always this rating compared to everybody else in the industry to make sure that you're doing it better than, and you're in a better position than anybody else. And when you start to get into competition like that, it's almost like, imagine if every day you got up and you had a twin, and every day you were in competition with them, always trying to compete, always wanting to be better than. You would be very, very, like, I have twin daughters, and they're 6 years old, and they're, as 6-year-old girls, they tend to, they tend to compete. They tend to bump into each other all day, every day. And as a 6-year-old girl, that's fine. But as a 13-year-old business, that's not fine anymore. You shouldn't be operating your business from that, dare I say, childish mentality, right? When a business, Peter Drucker said, business is in business for one reason and one reason only, and that's to get and keep a client, right? And if we're focused on market share and where our competition is, and again, that's an important factor, variable. It's in the book, right? It's one of the important variables in regards to understanding where your clients are at. But where your competition's at, you need to know where they're at. But you're focused on the business, right? The business is about the whole reason a business exists is to deliver on a promise. And if you're not focused on what is that promise, are we delivering on that promise, then you are stretching your resources in a way, or focusing in a way that will hurt you down the road, because you're going to miss something that's important over here by focusing over here. Right. Well, you're competing by comparison. You should never, in business, you should never compete by comparison. You should compete by innovation, by disruption. And you can't compete by innovation when you're looking to be the best in the market, because you're always looking to one up what already exists. Innovation is about disruption. Like, rarely does disruption happen from one-upping. Disruption usually happens from reaching outside of where you're at and bringing that in and allowing you to do something, make some kind of an impact at a higher level. Innovation, in its most simplistic terms, means adding more value than anybody else could ever expect. Right? So if you're looking to be unique, you could compete by innovation, by disruption. Right. Well, and that's the other thing, right? So your profit margin, we talked over the past several years, your profit margin has eroded to next to nothing. It's a race to a commodity. The whole industry, that's what I'm saying, the whole industry is doing that because the whole industry is competing by comparison. Right. I used to work for Gateway, so, I'd sit on these marketing calls, and it would be like, well, they would tell me what they were offering. I got this big argument with them, and finally, you can't argue with MBAs, Harvard level MBAs for too long, especially if you don't have a Harvard level MBA, before they just stop listening to you. And it was, I'm cheaper, now I'm cheaper, now I'm cheaper, now I'm cheaper, now I'm out of business, now so am I. That's what a race to commoditize does, right? And as well as in comparison, being unique is about larger profit margins because you've separated yourself out, right? You have multiple winners, you have multiple sustaining positions, right? Sustainable positions, right? So let me give it to you another way. Dell, was one of the winners in the race to commoditize the business, the computer industry, right? Gateway, one of the main reasons why they didn't survive was because they weren't able to streamline their systems. Like, many times people think that operational efficiency is a strategy. And this is a rare situation where, well, that was their claim to fame, their unique selling position, but it had everybody else become aware of the direction they were going, they could have modeled what they were doing. Operational efficiency is modelable. Right? So to be the best in the industry, your margins tend to erode, and so then you have to be able to do things more efficient, more faster. Now that's just part of doing business, right? Even when you're being unique, you need to constantly be optimizing, maximizing, systemizing, creating ways to do something, do the same thing with less. That's just part of doing business. But when that's your whole strategy, You leave yourself open for disruption from somebody else that comes from outside the industry, refreshes the industry. It's like Tony says, you either disrupt your industry or you're disrupted by it, right? And if you're unique, you got a wider product, you got a wider margin, right? It's more difficult for somebody to come in and duplicate your strategy because it's something that makes you unique. And so it's what we call a strategic trade-off. Right? What is the cost for us to go and match what it is they're doing? Many times what we find when you have a unique selling position, like Tony calls it a USP, right? When you have a USP, what that allows you to do is it allows you to build and grow and continue to scale around that. And if somebody comes in that wants to enter into the industry, now they've got to look at, do I go this way? Do I go this way? They've got to find the way that works. And the ultimate goal here is for you to find the way that works for you to impact your client at the highest possible level. Because now what we can do is we can continue to follow the client. We can continue to follow the direction that they're going. Right. Again, any value, if you're looking to be the best, any value that you create can be duplicated by your competition. Because it's just a one-up kind of thing. Right? Your competition is just one step away from duplicating you. Right? They're just one efficiency away from being right where you're at. Whereas if you're being unique, the value by nature sets you apart. Positioning is more sustainable and it's more defendable. Right? And that's the key to strategic positioning. You've got to be in a position that strategically aligns you with your client, with the map that you're operating in a way that allows you the ability to maximize return and anticipate the needs of your client so that you can ride there, hear me, faster, more efficient, and more effective than your competition.